December 17th, 1944, 06:42 a.m. Near the village of Bleialf in the Schnee Eifel. The forest is still dark, too dark for morning. A heavy mist clings to the pines, smothering sound, swallowing breath. Frost turns every branch into a needle, and somewhere beneath that frozen canopy, inside a shallow German foxhole, Gefreiter Lukas Hildebrandt presses a trembling hand against the receiver of his field phone. Nothing. Silence. The line, his lifeline, has been dead for hours. He tries again, anyway, whispering into the cold metal mouthpiece as if it were a prayer. Hup courtier. Bit. Common. The static answers him, soft and cruel. A distant thump rolls through the forest. A second follows, closer. Then a third. The ground trembles under him like something alive. He closes his eyes. American artillery. It's walking closer with terrifying precision. A sharp whistle cuts the air. A pine tree snaps in half and crashes down. Lukas throws himself flat as a shower of frozen dirt rains across his back. He feels each grain like a slap. And in that moment, with the forest exploding around him, he realizes something he never dared consider before. The Americans know exactly where they are. And the Germans do not. He lifts his head just enough to glimpse Unteroffizier Max Weigel, their squad leader, waving frantically from a foxhole 10 meters away. Ross. Ross? Buig ditch. Bav move. But where? The barrage is tightening, squeezing them like a fist. Lukas's ears ring. His breath feels sharp in his chest. In the flickering fog, he sees the silhouettes of the first Americans, shadows slipping between trees, low, fast, deliberate. Not panicked. Not rushed. Methodical. The 106th Infantry Division. The Golden Lions. Should have been an easy target, exhausted and stretched thin. At least, that's what the propaganda posters had promised. But the men advancing now are not the timid, untested replacements German officers bragged about. Their movements are coordinated, calm, almost predatory. A shape emerges from behind a log. An American scout with a Thompson, helmet dusted with frost, breath misting like steam. He signals silently. 3 more figures fan out. Lukas's heartbeat pounds in his mouth. He's never seen soldiers move like this. He crawls toward Max's position. Dirt stains his gloves. His rifle catches on a root and nearly slips from his hands. Unteroffizier! What do we do? He gasps. Max doesn't look at him. His eyes are locked on the Americans sliding between trees with impossible confidence. They're everywhere, he mutters. Another artillery shell detonates, closer than all the others. The shockwave knocks the words out of both their mouths. Max grabs Lukas by the collar. Listen to me, we pull back. Now, if we stay, we die. Or worse. Worse. Lukas repeats, dazed. Max hesitates. His jaw works. He doesn't say it. He doesn't have to. Everyone in the Wehrmacht has heard the rumors. Entire battalions vanishing. Outposts crushed before they can radio for help. Soldiers, thousands of them, simply giving up the moment they see American uniforms. But Lukas never believed it. Not until now. A machine gun bursts from the ridge above. German, desperate. A final assertion of resistance. The tracers carve burning lines across the fog. 2 are snuffed instantly when an American M1919 returns fire, steady and unflinching. The German gun falls silent. Max whispers. They shoot like they're sure they'll live through this. It's a strange thing to say in the middle of a battlefield, and yet, Lukas understands. American fire isn't wild or frantic. It's measured, controlled. Like they expect to go home after this. Like they're confident, not cornered. German fire, by contrast, feels thin. Nervous. Hollow. Another explosion throws Lukas onto his back. His helmet skitters away across the ice. He scrambles after it, fingers numb, breath shallow. When he looks up, he sees Max hunched over the map case. Then sees Max freeze. The map is wrong. The front lines have moved. The Americans have carved deeper into the Eifel than High Command ever admitted. The realization drains the color from Max's face. Lukas, he breathes. We're not the front line. We're behind it. A branch snaps nearby. Both men whirl toward the sound. An American patrol, moving like ghosts, passes between the trees not 20 meters from them. Their edges blur in the fog. Rifles ready, helmets low, boots silent on the frozen needles. Max swallows hard. We go. Now. Oh. Lukas nods, though his legs feel as if they belong to someone else. He rises in a crouch and follows Max deeper into the forest, away from the collapsing line. But the forest isn't empty. The deeper they go, the more bodies they find, not dead, but alive. German soldiers. Dozens at first. Then hundreds. Men from artillery batteries, shattered companies, cut, off engineer units. Huddled beneath trees. Sitting on packs. Staring at nothing. All of them lost. All of them surrounded. All of them waiting. Max grabs one by the shoulder. Why aren't you falling back? Where's your commander? Where the soldier looks up. His face is pale and hollow. Gone, he says simply. Then who's in charge here? The man gestures vaguely at the group. No one. Lukas's stomach turns. This is more than disorganization. This is collapse. Another shell lands somewhere to the north. The ground jumps. A few of the men flinch. Others barely react at all. As if the fear has simply burned out of them. Max looks around, voice tight with disbelief. Is this the whole regiment? One man laughs. A dry, humorless crack. It was. Lukas steps closer. Why aren't you fighting? The Americans are pushing. They're not pushing. The man cuts him off. They're sweeping. And we're just debris. He looks Lukas in the eye, voice low and steady. You haven't seen them up close yet, have you? Lukas thinks of the American scout slipping through the fog. The way he moved. The way the rifle stayed level. The calmness. The certainty. He says nothing. The soldier continues. They have hot food. Dry boots. Winter coats. Artillery that actually hits where they aim. They can replace their losses in a week. We can't replace a platoon in a month. He gestures to the forest. You can hide. You can run. But you can't stop them. A ripple of agreement moves through the huddled men. Max's voice sharpens. We're soldiers of the Wehrmacht. Our orders are to hold until relieved. Relieved by who? Another man says. Göring. The FURER. Some division that exists only on the radio. A silence falls. You can almost feel the weight of it. Heavy. Suffocating. Lukas looks around. Faces stare back, tired, hollowed, defeated. Not from battle but from realization. Then the sound changes. Not artillery. Not rifles, engines. Dozens of them. The roar swells, echoing over the trees like thunder rolling across steel. Lukas's heart seizes. He crouches instinctively, eyes scanning the mist, but the sound grows louder. Closer, surrounding. Max's face tightens. Sherman's. The first tank silhouette emerges like a ghost, broad, boxy, nearly silent except for the low mechanical growl. Its treads chew slowly through the snow. Its turret swivels with calm precision. American infantry walk beside it. Long coats, steady strides, rifles resting casually as if this were a drill, not a war. Lukas freezes. The entire German group freezes. For a moment, everything holds still. Just the tanks, the mist, the cold breath of two armies staring at each other across 50 meters. And then, the moment Lukas will never forget. The lead American soldier lifts one hand, not aggressively, not threateningly, just a gesture, a simple invitation, a silent offer, a choice. A murmur passes through the German rank. One man stands, another raises his hands, then another, then 10. Max stiffens. Don't. But Lukas isn't listening anymore, because he sees something in the American faces that he hasn't seen in months. Not hatred, not bloodlust. Just humanity. Warm gloves. Dry coats. Clean boots. Food in their packs. A certainty that this war is already over. Lukas's throat tightens. He exhales, long and trembling. And then he does something he never imagined a month ago, or even a day ago. He stands up. His hands rise slowly into the cold morning air. Around him, a wave of German soldiers follow, 1,000 decisions collapsing into one, 100 fears replaced by a single truth. Survival. Behind him, Max whispers, "Lukas, don't." But Lukas doesn't stop. Because in that moment, in that frostbitten forest, in that brief, breathless silence, something fundamental breaks inside him. Something that has been cracking for years. And he isn't alone. By the time the tanks fully emerge from the fog, entire companies are standing with hands raised. Soldiers stepping forward one after another, like dominoes falling in slow motion. Surrender spreading not as cowardice, but as inevitability. And as the Americans move in to receive them, Lukas realizes the truth he'll carry for the rest of his life. This is just the beginning. In the next valley, in the next town, across the entire Western Front, tens of thousands more will make the same choice. Because word is spreading. Fast. And once a rumor becomes a pattern, once a pattern becomes survival, nothing can stop it. Not orders. Not ideology. Not fear. Nothing. And within months, 500,000 German soldiers will lay down their arms rather than face the Americans. But why? What did they see in the American advance? In their weapons, their confidence, their treatment of prisoners. That made surrender not just tempting, but logical. Why did entire divisions decide that captivity was safer than continuing the fight? The answer begins with what happens next. Something no one expected. Something that spreads through the German ranks like wildfire. Something that changes the entire war. And it starts within the next 5 minutes. The moment the Americans step through the fog, Lukas feels something unexpected. Not fear, but confusion. He stands rigid among hundreds of other German soldiers, hands high, breath misting in thin white ribbons. The Sherman tank grinds to a gentle halt just meters away. Its engine ticks, cooling. Snowflakes swirl in the heat rising from the exhaust. And then, quiet, not a shout. Not a rifle butt to the chest. Not the brutality German propaganda had drilled into them. Just quiet. Technical Sergeant William Avery of the 112th Infantry Regiment studies the scene with narrowed eyes. He has a cigarette tucked behind one ear, and a wool scarf pulled awkwardly across his chin. His rifle hangs loose at his side, not aimed at anyone. He looks almost bored. He turns his head and calls over his shoulder, voice flat and calms. "Charlie, get the translator over here." Lukas blinks. Translator. From behind the tank, a young American private steps forward. Thin glasses. Clean uniform. Barely older than Lukas himself. He clears his throat and speaks in surprisingly smooth German. "You are safe. Line up. You're wounded first." The words hit like a slap. Safe. Safe. Lukas looks around. The entire group hesitates, as if expecting a trick, a punchline that never comes. Max pulls up beside him, eyes darting, jaw clenched hard enough to creak. "This is wrong," Max whispers. "It's not supposed to be like this." But it is like this. The Americans don't bark threats. They don't fire warning shots. They simply step aside and gesture the Germans forward with a strange blend of caution and courtesy. Like they've done this 100 times before, because they have. One of the American medics, a stocky man with mittens and a red cross armband, steps toward a German corporal limping on a blood-soaked boot. The medic shakes his head. "Sit. Sit." He kneels and begins unwrapping the bandage. Lucas's eyes widen. He's treating him. Helping him. A German NCO stammers out. "WWII?" The medic glances up with a puzzled expression, as if the question itself is nonsense. "You're wounded." Of simple. "Maxa, of fact, human." Max mutters under his breath, "Impossible." But the word feels hollow. For months, German propaganda has painted Americans as savages, gangsters, criminals, men who prefer killing prisoners to feeding them. They would torture you, they were told, kill you for sport, treat you like animals. But standing here now, the reality is shattering the illusion like glass. Avery steps forward again, eyeing the long line of shivering prisoners. He raises one hand. "You'll get food soon. Hot food. Keep moving." Translator repeats it in German. Hot food. That phrase ripples through the crowd like a warm wind. Even Lucas feels his stomach twist in sudden, painful hope. Hot food. Someone whispers behind him. Max hears it too. "Ignore that," he snaps. "They're manipulating us." But Lucas isn't so sure, because the Americans look warm. Their coats thick, their boots dry, their gloves insulated. Steam curls from their breath as they talk, calm and organized. The Germans, by contrast, look like scarecrows left in a winter field. Thin, ragged, hungry, their boots leak. Their gloves are stitched and re-stitched. Many haven't eaten properly in days, and the Americans know it. Avery turns to his men. "Get the kitchen trucks up. These boys look frozen." The translator doesn't need to translate that. The tone alone carries the meaning. A rumble of disbelief sweeps through the Germans. Max's voice cracks. "This isn't how prisoners are treated. Not in any war." And he's right. Not in any war before this one. Because the Americans are fighting a different kind of campaign, one built on logistics, on overwhelming supplies, on an economy so vast it can afford to feed the enemy. And the Germans know it. They can see it right now in the Americans' equipment. Their uniforms, their confidence, a confidence that comes from knowing they will not run out of bullets, not run out of men. Not run out of food. Lukas studies the Americans more closely. Their rifles are well oiled. Their packs full. Their belts heavy with ammunition. They carry extra everything. Extra socks, extra rations, extra time. One American soldier steps past with a steaming metal cup in his gloved hands. The smell drifts across the cold air. Their coffee. Real, fresh coffee. Lucas swallows hard. His mouth fills with saliva. Another German beside him whispers, "Do they all eat like that?" Lucas doesn't answer. Because the truth is visible. The Americans don't look like men on the brink. They look like men on the road to victory. The line of prisoners shuffles forward through the trees. Snow crunches underfoot. A few cough. One limps. Another keeps looking back at the tank trades, mesmerized. Then the Americans lead them into a clearing. And here the second shock hits even harder. A row of large canvas tents stands neatly arranged around a temporary camp. Smoke curls from small stoves, A cluster of American MPs stand near a long wooden table stacked with blankets, canteens, and something impossible bread. Fresh bread. Lukas stares. The last time he saw bread that wasn't hard as a brick was months ago. An MP nods at the line, waves them toward the tents. Move through, you'll get checked, fed, and then you'll be moved to a safe holding area. A safe. There's that word again. Lukas can feel Max breathing next to him. Short, quick breaths like a man trying to wake from a nightmare. Or walk out of one. Lukas? Don't relax, Max warns. They're softening us for interrogation. But that isn't what Lukas sees. He sees Americans handing out blankets to shivering Germans. He sees medics checking fingers for frostbite. He sees soldiers laughing quietly, not at them, but around them, as if war has not eaten their souls hollow. And then, something nearly unbelievable happens. A young American MP, maybe 19, offers Lukas a metal cup of hot broth. Here, drink. Lukas hesitates. The steam curls under his nose like some kind of witchcraft. It's okay, the MP says gently. You look like you need it. Lukas takes it with shaking hands. Warmth spreads through his chest before he even drinks. When the broth hits his tongue, his eyes sting. It's salty and thin, and probably nothing special. But to him it tastes like life coming back. Max sees it and his expression collapses into something pained and complicated. Not anger. Not betrayal. Just realization. This is why. Max whispers. Lukas looks at him. Why what? Why Max swallows? Why they say entire units surrender to the Americans? Why they don't resist? Why they walk toward them instead of away? His voice cracks. Because they treat you like a human being, even when you lose. Lukas exhales shakily. He hadn't planned to surrender. He hadn't even considered it this morning. But now, he sees the truth. And it terrifies him more than the artillery. Because if the Americans treat prisoners better than the German army treats its own men, then the war is already lost. Not on the battlefield, but in the hearts of the soldiers. Avery walks past them, adjusting his gloves. He glances at the growing group of German POWs. How many so far? He asks. 1, 40, maybe more. His sergeant replies. And that's just this valley. Avery nods. There'll be thousands by sundown. They're cracking. They're cracking. The word lands deep because Max and Lukas both know. It isn't just this valley. It isn't just these men. It's spreading everywhere. Lukas looks down at his cup of broth. Steam curls upward like a signal. A symbol of something unthinkable. German soldiers are beginning to trust the Americans more than their own command. And that truth, it's about to explode across the entire Western Front, because the next 48 hours will reveal something far bigger. Something the German High Command refuses to admit, something American officers are just beginning to notice, and something that will lead to 500,000 Germans surrendering willingly. And the spark, it ignites tonight, in a small American field kitchen, over a single, unbelievable meal. Night falls fast in the Schnee Eifel. By 1810, the forest is swallowed in blackness. Snow drifts in slow spirals. The wind slithers through branches with a low, icy whistle. In the American camp, lanterns glow like small, defiant stars. Warm islands of yellow in a sea of darkness. Lukas sits near one of the stoves, legs tucked under him, a wool blanket wrapped around his shoulders. He still feels like he's trespassing in someone else's world. Every sound jolts him. Every voice feels foreign. Every kindness feels unreal. But the smell drifting from the field kitchen, that Feels like a dream. A thick, rich aroma rolls through the camp. Meat, onions, something warm and spiced. The kind of smell that grabs a starving man by the ribs. Max stands beside him, rigid, refusing to sit. He watches the Americans with a soldier's suspicion. Eyes sharp, lips pressed tight. Lukas murmurs, "You should sit." Rest. And Max doesn't answer. His gaze is locked on the steaming metal pots, the stacks of trays, the casual ease of the cook's ladling food. It's not fear on his face. It's disbelief and humiliation, because German soldiers haven't eaten hot stew in days, some in weeks. The retreat has been chaos. Supply lines shredded, trucks abandoned, rations half, rotten or non-existent. Lukas's last meal was 2 stiff biscuits and a piece of stringy horse meat. Now he watches an American cook casually toss chunks of beef into a boiling pot as if it were nothing, as if abundance were normal. Lukas swallows hard. Max finally speaks, voice low. "Do you know what our Feldwebel gave us yesterday? Cabbage water." He gestures to the kitchen. "They're feeding their prisoners better than we feed our soldiers." He says it softly, as if afraid the words might shatter something fragile. Lukas knows he's right. Across the clearing, Technical Sergeant Avery stands near the kitchen truck, flipping through a clipboard. He looks up at the growing line of German POWs waiting for food. "Make sure they get seconds if we have enough," he tells the cooks. One raises an eyebrow. "All of them." "All of them." The cook whistles. "Gonna empty our stores pretty quick, Sarge." Avery shrugs. "We've got more coming in from Troy's Ponts tomorrow. They need it more than we do." It's said casually, without judgment or pity, just a factual observation. A logistical truth. But to Lukas, to Max, to every German in earshot, it feels like a blow to the chest, diving. As if the Americans have so much food, so much supply, so much everything, that feeding thousands of prisoners is nothing more than a mild inconvenience. Lukas whispers, "We could have fought better if we had half their supplies." Max closes his eyes. "We never had a chance." The line moves slowly. A few German soldiers limp past with steaming trays. Thick stew, soft bread, something that looks like mashed potatoes. Their faces are stunned, half in disbelief, half in shame. One soldier, a gaunt man from a shattered Volksgrenadier unit, walks by muttering, "God help me. This tastes like my mother's cooking." His voice cracks with emotion. Max stiffens. Something internal snaps a thread. "Don't say that," he tells Lukas abruptly. "Don't get used to it. Don't trust this. It's temporary." He says the words with force, but not conviction, because his eyes keep drifting toward the soup pot. And then the moment happens. The moment that will ripple outward, across the front lines, through entire divisions, all the way into the heart of collapsing German morale. The moment begins simply with a bowl. A cook ladles stew into a dented metal tray and hands it to Lukas. He accepts it slowly, reverently. Steam curls upward, fat glistens in the glow of the lantern. It smells warm. Real, alive. Lukas takes a sip. His entire body jolts. It's rich, savory, actual meat, actual vegetables, salt, warmth. A warmth that feels like a betrayal. He closes his eyes, tears stinging hot against the cold night air. Max stares, jaw tight. "Is it good?" Lukas can barely speak. He nods. Max hesitates. Just once. His shoulders rise with a long, painful breath. Then he steps forward. His voice is quiet, almost ashamed. "My men haven't eaten in 2 days. Do you have enough for all of them?" The American cook nods easily. Well, feed you all. Max's posture crumples. Not visibly. He's too proud for that. But something inside him folds. He steps into the line. Avery watches him and mutters to one of his corporals. They've reached the breaking point. The corporal nods. Think more will come in tomorrow. Avery looks around. At the shivering Germans, the exhausted faces, the hollow eyes. Then, toward the distant tree line where the front is collapsing like wet paper. They'll come, he says. They already are. And he's right. Just after 2000, a new sound emerges from the dark forest. Not gunfire, not engines. Voices. Dozens of them, then hundreds. German voices. Lukas turns his head. Shapes appear between the trees. Dozens of silhouettes approaching cautiously. Soldiers stepping forward with rifles raised above their heads. Others wounded, carried by comrades. Some limping on makeshift crutches. They aren't being captured. They're seeking surrender. Voluntarily. Avery calls to the MPs, front lights on! Guide them in. Bright beams snap on, slicing through the night. More silhouettes appear. More soldiers. More broken men walking toward the glow of American lanterns like moths drawn to a flame. One American private murmurs, "Holy hell." Another whistles low. There must be 500 of them. Avery shakes his head. More. Max watches them approach. His face is unreadable. Lukas whispers, "They walked here." He says it as though the idea is impossible. Max nods slowly. They followed the light. It wasn't the light. It was the promise behind it: food, warmth, treatment, respect, survival. All things the German army stopped offering months ago. As the waves of surrendering soldiers flood into camp, Avery speaks quietly to the translator. Tell them they'll be safe here. Tell them we have room. The translator hesitates. We don't, not really. Avery glances at the massive influx. We'll make room. One German officer, a lieutenant with a bandaged arm, approaches Max. He looks stunned, almost embarrassed. Is it true? He asks. They're feeding everyone. Max nods stiffly. The lieutenant exhales shakily. Then God forgive me. I think my whole battalion is coming next. Lukas looks toward the dark woods. He can see more shadows moving. More faces. More broken silhouettes stepping out of the abyss of the abyss. A line stretching so far into the trees it becomes indistinguishable from the night itself. The lieutenant whispers, "We were told Americans would shoot us." Max glances at the steaming bowls, the blankets, the medics tending to frostbite. That, Max says quietly, was a lie. The lieutenant nods. It was. All of it. And then the words that matter most. I think thousands more will come tomorrow. He's wrong. It won't be thousands. It will be tens of thousands, because what happens tonight will spread like wildfire. German POWs will talk. They will whisper. They will tell the truth, that Americans feed prisoners hot meals, that they treat the wounded first, that they give blankets, that they don't execute. That surrender means survival, not shame. And soldiers on the edge of collapse, starving, cold, abandoned by their officers, will make the simplest, most human choice, to live. Lukas finishes the last of his stew, hands trembling. And in the silence that follows, he hears something he hasn't heard in months. The sound of men breathing easier. Though they've just surrendered, they're alive. And inside their chests, something softens. The war, for them, is over. But for the Americans, the real shock is just beginning. Because at dawn, as the sun slices through the trees, and an entire German regiment will appear at the camp edge. Not attacking, not retreating, but walking, marching, straight toward surrender, and behind them, something even larger. Something that will redefine the final months of the war. Something Max and Lukas will witness with their own eyes. The moment that explains everything. Why 500,000 German soldiers surrendered rather than face the Americans. And it begins just after sunrise.